Everyone thought the Cleveland Browns had already made their move. The headline said the chaos was over, the future was set, and the franchise had finally chosen a direction. But according to what insiders are now whispering, that was just the warm-up. Because behind the scenes, something far bigger may be unfolding. Something so bold that rival front offices are reportedly scrambling. Something so unconventional that league executives are said to be quietly panicking. This isn't about another coaching hire. This isn't about a normal rebuild. And it definitely isn't business as usual. Multiple reports suggest the Browns may have pushed all their chips to the center of the table with a proposal that could rewrite how power works in the NFL. Not a standard contract, not a traditional role, but a partnership so expensive, so aggressive, and so unprecedented that it's already raising uncomfortable questions about legality, influence, and where the league draws the line. At the center of it all is a name that never stays out of the spotlight. A figure who doesn't just attract attention, he bends it. And according to league chatter, Cleveland believes he's the only move left that can save a franchise drowning in decades of failure. But this rumor didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't born in a boardroom or negotiated over spreadsheets. It traces back to a single moment on the field, a moment of chaos, vulnerability, and fear that may have changed everything. And if what insiders are claiming is even close to true, the NFL isn't just facing a controversial hire. It's staring down the most explosive experiment in modern football history. Because once you hear what Cleveland is allegedly offering, and why, it becomes clear why so many people are desperate to stop this before it happens. It all began on what felt like another lost Sunday in Cleveland. The offense was sputtering, the energy in the stadium was flat, and the season already seemed to be slipping toward the familiar territory Browns fans know too well. Nothing about the day suggested it would become a turning point. Until, in a single violent moment, everything changed. The Browns' starting quarterback took a brutal hit that silenced the stadium. Medical staff rushed in, the replay boards went dark, and within minutes the word spread: concussion protocol. Just like that, the game plan collapsed. Cameras panned to the sideline, and that's when the story truly began. Standing there, gripping his helmet, was Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick, the quarterback who had slid further than expected on draft night. The one critics labeled a gamble, a distraction, or worse. As Shedeur jogged onto the field to face a relentless defense, the atmosphere shifted from frustration to disbelief. This wasn't a design debut. This was survival. Every snap carried weight, not just for the game, but for his future. Around the league, executives watched closely, some out of curiosity, others out of quiet skepticism. But the most powerful reaction wasn't happening in the stadium. Thousands of miles away, reports claimed Deion Sanders was watching in near silence. This wasn't the confident, untouchable coach Prime the public knows. This was a father watching his son step into the most unforgiving league in sports under the worst possible circumstances. Later, Deion reportedly admitted he couldn't even speak as the game unfolded. His trademark confidence cracked, replaced by something far more human. For years, Deion had controlled every variable around his son's development. From college schemes to protection packages, he built environments designed to maximize Shedeur's strengths and shield his weaknesses. But the NFL doesn't offer that luxury. There are no safety nets, no long leashes. And in that moment, it became painfully clear that once your son crosses that line, you no longer have control. Shedeur fought, he took hits, he got back up. He showed flashes that reminded people why his name still carries weight. But it wasn't about stats. It was about exposure, about how quickly careers can be altered in this league for better or worse. And according to league chatter, that realization may have been the spark. Because when a father who understands the brutality of the NFL realizes he can't protect his son from the system, the only option left is to confront the system itself. According to multiple league insiders, what happened next caught everyone off guard. Quiet conversations turned into frantic phone calls. Whispers became panic, because buried beneath the usual coaching rumors was something far more aggressive taking shape in Cleveland. Reports claimed the Browns weren't just exploring an idea. They were preparing an offer so extreme that it instantly set off alarms across the NFL. This wasn't a standard head coaching proposal. It wasn't even a normal front office role. Sources suggest the Browns were willing to offer Deion Sanders a package that would place him among the highest-paid figures in coaching history, with numbers rumored to approach levels typically reserved for the most untouchable legends in the sport. But the money, as staggering as it sounds, wasn't the real headline. What truly rattled rival executives was the structure. According to those familiar with the discussions, the offer was designed as a partnership rather than a hierarchy. Deion wouldn't just be stepping into a role, he'd be stepping into power. The proposed arrangement allegedly included authority that stretches far beyond the sideline, blurring the line between coach, mentor, and decision-maker. It's been said that Cleveland was willing to grant influence over personnel decisions, staff construction, and long-term roster direction. That's when the fear set in. Around the league, some executives reportedly viewed this as a dangerous precedent, not because of Deion's resume, but because of what this kind of arrangement could unlock. A coach with cultural pull, financial backing, and operational influence isn't just leading a team, he's reshaping how leverage works in the NFL. And in a league built on rigid structures and carefully guarded boundaries, that kind of shift makes people nervous. There's also been quiet speculation about competitive balance. Insiders claim some front offices believe this type of deal could function as an indirect advantage, funneling influence and opportunity in ways the league has never had to regulate before. No formal accusations have surfaced, but the discomfort is real. One executive reportedly described it as a line you can't unsee once it's crossed. Still, Cleveland appears undeterred. From their perspective, this isn't recklessness, it's necessity. They aren't chasing headlines, they're chasing relevance. And if bending convention is the price of survival, they seem willing to pay it. Because once you reach a certain point of failure, playing by the old rules stops making sense. And Cleveland, by all accounts, believes the old rules have already failed them. To understand why the Browns would even entertain a move this extreme, you have to understand the weight of failure hanging over the franchise. Cleveland isn't just struggling, it's exhausted. Decades of rebuilds, rebrands, and resets have produced the same result: fleeting hope followed by collapse. Coaches came and went. Quarterbacks were drafted, traded, discarded. Promises were made every offseason, only to be broken by November. And the most damaging part isn't the losses, it's the apathy. League insiders have noted that Cleveland's biggest fear right now isn't another bad season, it's indifference. Empty seats, shrugging fans, a city slowly disconnecting from a team that once defined it. The front office knows that playing it safe no longer moves the needle. Another traditional hire doesn't excite anyone. Another season won't buy patience. The clock has run out. That's where Deion Sanders enters the equation. From Cleveland's perspective, this isn't just about football strategy, it's about cultural shock therapy. Deion represents attention, relevance, and belief, three things the Browns have been bleeding for years. He doesn't just change locker rooms, he changes conversations. Overnight, the Browns wouldn't be a punchline, they'd be unavoidable. And Cleveland is betting that chaos might actually be an upgrade. Internally, the logic is reportedly simple. If the franchise keeps doing what it's always done, the result is guaranteed mediocrity. But if they swing hard, really hard, there's at least a chance at transformation. And if it fails, some insiders believe ownership views that outcome as no worse than the slow decay they're already experiencing. There's also the market reality. The NFL is no longer just a sport, it's an entertainment engine. Attention equals value, and few figures in football generate attention like Deion Sanders. Ticket demand, national broadcasts, merchandise, sponsorships. Even critics tune in. From a business standpoint, the upside is massive, even before wins enter the picture. But Cleveland's gamble goes deeper than dollars. This is about identity, about finally choosing a lane instead of drifting. The Browns aren't trying to be careful anymore. They're trying to be unforgettable. And in their eyes, Deion Sanders isn't a risk. He's a reset button. The problem is that resets come with consequences. And the moment this move becomes official, if it ever does, the scrutiny won't just land on Cleveland. It will land squarely on one person. The moment this idea leaked, the reaction was instant and brutal. Critics didn't wait for details. They didn't wait for confirmations. One word dominated the conversation almost immediately: favoritism. If Deion Sanders steps into a position of power in Cleveland, many believe the spotlight on Shedeur wouldn't just intensify, it would become suffocating. Every throw would be dissected, every interception magnified, every loss reframed as proof that the experiment never should have happened. In the NFL, perception matters almost as much as performance, and insiders suggest the Browns understand they'd be inviting a level of scrutiny few organizations have ever faced. According to reports, rival executives already believe the narrative would be written before the first snap. If Shedeur succeeds, skeptics would claim the system was built for him. If he struggles, they'd say the league warned Cleveland all along. There would be no middle ground, no patience, no grace period. And that's the risk most franchises wouldn't touch. But those close to Deion argue this criticism misunderstands both the man and the situation. It's been said that Deion has long drawn a hard line between being a father and being a coach. Those who have worked with him claim that once the whistle blows, emotion gives way to accountability. The expectation wouldn't change. If anything, it would increase. There's also the uncomfortable truth many critics avoid. Shedeur didn't arrive in the NFL on reputation alone. He played behind unstable protection, absorbed relentless pressure, and still produced at a level that forced scouts to take notice. His draft slide, according to league chatter, had less to do with ability and more to do with fear. Fear of attention, fear of noise, fear of the so-called circus that follows the Sanders name. And now that same fear has returned, only magnified. From Cleveland's perspective, this is the paradox. The very pressure people say will break Shedeur is the pressure Deion believes will forge him. He reportedly views his son not as a project to protect, but as an asset the league undervalued because it doesn't know how to handle personalities that don't fit neatly into boxes. Still, the Browns know this move would put a permanent target on their quarterback. Defenses wouldn't just want to win, they'd want to make a statement. Media coverage wouldn't just analyze, it would hunt for cracks. And yet, despite all of that, Cleveland appears willing to proceed. Because in their eyes, the risk isn't the criticism. The real risk is doing nothing and watching another quarterback fade into obscurity while the cycle repeats all over again. For all the noise surrounding Cleveland's offer, one question keeps resurfacing behind the scenes. Why would Deion Sanders ever leave what he's built? Because in Boulder, he isn't just a coach. He's a ruler. The program bends around him. The culture reflects him. The decisions flow through him. Few coaches in modern football enjoy that level of freedom, and even fewer earned it as quickly as he did. At Colorado, Deion rebuilt a lifeless program into a national spectacle. Wins mattered, but belief mattered more. Recruits came not just for playing time, but for visibility. Celebrities showed up. Cameras followed. The school handed him the keys, and he turned the place into a brand. There are no owners peering over his shoulder, no league office questioning his tone, no cap rules limiting his influence. In many ways, it's the safest power position he'll ever have. The NFL is the opposite. Owners meddle. Media pressure is constant. Every move is audited, every quote weaponized. Control is negotiated, not granted. And for someone like Deion, who thrives on autonomy, that environment can suffocate even the most accomplished leaders. Insiders around the league believe this is the single biggest obstacle to the Browns' pursuit. Not money, not optics, control. So why consider the jump at all? Those close to Dayan suggest the answer isn't professional, it's personal. There's a belief that once Shedeur entered the NFL, the equation changed. College football allowed Dayan to manage variables, design protection, and slow the process. The NFL strips that away. Development happens fast or not at all. And for a father who understands how quickly young quarterbacks can be labeled, discarded, or mentally shaken, the idea of watching from a distance may be unbearable. There's also legacy. Dayan Sanders has conquered nearly every mountain available to him. Hall of Fame career, cultural icon, college football disruptor. But one peak remains untouched, winning at the highest level as a head coach against grown professionals who know the game as well as he does. That validation doesn't come in Boulder. It only comes on Sundays. According to league chatter, Dayan may see this not as abandoning his kingdom, but as testing it. Taking everything he's built, confidence, structure, belief, and throwing it into the most unforgiving arena in sports. Because if it works, the reward isn't just wins. It's history. And if it fails, some believe Dayan would rather fall attempting the impossible than remain comfortable knowing he never tried. Which leaves Cleveland waiting, and the league watching closely. This is the point where everything converges. The father, the son, the franchise, and a league that suddenly feels like it's standing on unstable ground. Because if this move actually happens, it won't just redefine Cleveland's future. It will challenge the NFL's comfort zone in ways it hasn't faced before. From a football standpoint, this would be the boldest experiment the league has seen in decades. A rookie quarterback tied directly to a powerful, polarizing figure with operational influence. A franchise handing over trust instead of hedging it. And a front office betting that belief, attention, and authority can succeed where structure and patience never have. But the ripple effects wouldn't stop in Cleveland. According to league chatter, other owners would be watching closely, not just out of curiosity but concern. If this model works even partially, it opens doors the NFL has spent years keeping shut. Power coaches demanding autonomy, personality-driven leadership gaining leverage, traditional hierarchies quietly breaking down. For a league built on uniformity and control, that possibility is unsettling. And yet, there's another side to this that critics can't ignore. The NFL thrives on stories, on conflict, on figures people can't stop talking about. And Dayan Sanders guarantees that every Browns game would matter regardless of record. Cameras would follow, conversations would explode, even opponents would feel the weight of the moment. Attention would become unavoidable. But attention cuts both ways. If the Browns struggle, this won't be treated like a normal rebuild. Losses would feel louder, mistakes would feel heavier, and the blame wouldn't scatter, it would concentrate on one man, on one family, on one decision Cleveland can never undo. That's why insiders say this isn't just a football call, it's a philosophical one. Cleveland has to decide whether it wants stability or transformation, whether it fears chaos more than irrelevance, whether it believes the safest move left is the riskiest one possible. As of now, reports suggest the interest is real. The conversations are active, and the league is bracing for an answer. If Dayan Sanders walks onto that sideline, the NFL won't just watch, it will react. Every snap will feel larger, every result more symbolic. This won't be about wins and losses anymore. It will be about whether football's old rules can survive a new kind of power. And once that door opens, there may be no closing it again. For all the reasons Dayan Sanders should stay put, there are just as many reasons this offer may be impossible for him to ignore. On the surface, leaving Colorado looks irrational. He has control, loyalty, national relevance, and a program built entirely in his image. Few coaches ever reach that level of comfort. fewer still walk away from it willingly. But comfort has never been Dayan's end goal. Those close to him have long said that Dayan doesn't chase safety, he chases significance. Every major move in his career followed the same pattern: step into chaos, embrace skepticism, and bet on himself when others wouldn't. This situation fits that pattern almost too perfectly. First, there's the competitive pull. Dayan has already proven he can flip narratives at the college level. He's won where people said he couldn't. He's built credibility where critics said he had none. The NFL is the last frontier. Winning there isn't just another achievement, it's a final stamp. If Dayan succeeds as an NFL head coach, especially under this kind of scrutiny, the debate about his legitimacy ends forever. Then there's the legacy factor. Dayan Sanders doesn't think in seasons. He thinks in eras. And right now, the opportunity to shape not just a team but a franchise's identity may be too tempting to pass up. According to reports, Cleveland isn't offering him a job, they're offering him authorship. The chance to write the story from page one instead of inheriting someone else's mess. But more than anything, this decision may come down to family. Once Shedeur entered the NFL, Dayan lost the ability to influence the environment from a distance. He can't design protections. He can't control development timelines. He can't shield his son from narratives that form faster than players can respond to them. And insiders suggest that watching from the outside may be the one thing Dayan can't tolerate. From that perspective, Cleveland's offer isn't about power. It's about proximity, about being present where it matters most, about ensuring that if Shedeur succeeds or fails, it happens within a system Dayan believes in, not one he's powerless to influence. There's also the reality that Dayan doesn't fear backlash. He's lived inside controversy his entire career. He understands that attention is unavoidable and pressure is permanent. What others see as a burden, he sees as fuel. So while the risks are obvious, the reward is something Dayan has chased his entire life. Not approval, not comfort, but the chance to prove, one last time, that betting on himself is never the wrong move. This is where the story stops being hypothetical and starts becoming unavoidable. Because once all the speculation is stripped away, what remains is a simple but dangerous question. What happens if Cleveland actually goes through with this? If the Browns finalize this move, it won't just be another headline in the offseason cycle. It will become the reference point for everything that follows. Every bold hire, every power struggle between coaches and ownership, every debate about where influence begins and ends in the modern NFL. One decision could quietly redraw boundaries the league has relied on for decades. And that's why so many people are uneasy. From the league's perspective, this isn't just about one franchise gambling big. It's about precedent. If Cleveland proves that giving unprecedented authority to a high-profile figure can revive relevance, generate revenue, and keep fans locked in, other teams will take notes. Owners will ask uncomfortable questions. Coaches will demand leverage. The balance of power could tilt in ways the league never intended. But from Cleveland's perspective, the math looks different. They aren't protecting tradition. They're fighting extinction. Another forgettable season doesn't just hurt the win column, it accelerates disengagement. Fans don't just leave stadiums, they leave emotionally. And once that happens, it's nearly impossible to pull them back without something dramatic. This is the Browns choosing drama on purpose. They're choosing to be judged loudly rather than ignored quietly. They're choosing risk over routine. And they're betting that even if this experiment fails, it will fail trying to become something greater than what they've been. For Dayan, the decision carries equal weight. Saying yes means stepping into a storm where every move will be scrutinized and every mistake amplified. Saying no means walking away from the chance to influence the one arena he's never conquered. Either path reshapes his legacy. One preserves control, the other challenges it. And somewhere in the middle of all of this is a young quarterback trying to prove he belongs, regardless of last names or narratives. Right now, nothing is signed, nothing is official, but the conversations are real and the tension is growing. If this deal happens, Sundays won't feel the same. Not in Cleveland, not across the league. Because love it or hate it, nobody will be able to look away. And that might be the most powerful outcome of all. At this point, the league is holding its breath. Nothing has been finalized, nothing has been announced, and yet the tension feels real because the implications are impossible to ignore. One signature could turn all of this speculation into the most closely watched experiment the NFL has ever seen. For Cleveland, this is no longer about chasing wins alone. It's about choosing an identity. Either they continue down a familiar road that leads to quiet disappointment, or they embrace a path that guarantees relevance, scrutiny, and the possibility of something extraordinary. Safe moves have already failed them. This one, at the very least, promises a heartbeat. For Deion Sanders, the decision cuts even deeper. Saying yes means stepping into a league that won't protect him, won't soften the criticism, and won't separate the father from the coach. It means risking a carefully built reputation on the one stage that never forgives hesitation. But saying no means walking away from the only challenge left that can truly test everything he believes about leadership, preparation, and legacy. And then there, Shedeur, a young quarterback caught at the center of a storm he didn't create, trying to carve out his own place in a league that judges faster than it listens. Whether this move happens or not, the spotlight is already on him. The only question is who stands beside him when the pressure peaks. If this deal goes through, it won't just shape a franchise. It will force the NFL to confront its own rules, its comfort with power, and its relationship with personalities it can't control. It could fail spectacularly, or it could open a door the league can never close again. Either way, one thing is certain. If Deion Sanders steps onto that sideline in Cleveland, nobody will be changing the channel.